The day I realized my retirement money was gone, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stared at the screen while my hands shook so badly I could barely hold my phone. My own son had emptied the account I'd spent 42 years building. He looked me in the eye and said, "Dad, I did it for the family." Those 6 words changed everything. If stories about family betrayal hit close to home, I'd appreciate you subscribing to Family Betrayal. And one more thing before we go any further. The faces, photos, background clips, and scenes you see are simply there to help tell the story. They're not real images of the people involved. I'm David, 68 years old, a retired electrician from Ohio. My wife passed away 7 years ago, and after that, my son Tyler became the person I trusted most. He helped me with online banking because computers weren't exactly my strength. I thought I was lucky to have a son who cared. I couldn't have been more wrong. One Tuesday morning, I logged into my retirement account to prepare for a property tax payment. Instead of seeing over $400,000, I found less than $8,000. I thought the website had made a mistake. Then I called the bank. The woman on the phone calmly confirmed that the money had been transferred over several weeks. Every transfer had been approved using my online credentials. My stomach dropped. I drove straight to Tyler's house. He didn't even deny it. He smiled, almost proudly. "Dad, relax. It's still in the family. I invested it. Bigger house. New truck. Better future for all of us." I asked him why he hadn't told me. He shrugged. "You would have said no." At that moment, I realized he didn't think he'd stolen from me. He thought he was entitled to everything I owned. So I said nothing. I simply nodded, got back into my truck, and drove away. He thought he'd won. He had no idea the account wasn't what he believed it was. And the first surprise was already on its way. I drove home that afternoon feeling completely numb. Every mile gave me another chance to explode, but I didn't. My wife always used to tell me that anger makes people careless. For the first time since losing her, I decided to follow her advice. Tyler expected me to fight him. Instead, I became quiet. That made him comfortable. Over the next few weeks, I watched him spend money like he'd won the lottery. He traded his pickup for a luxury SUV. His wife filled their house with expensive furniture. They posted family vacations online with captions about hard work finally paying off. Every picture felt like another knife in my back, but I never commented. I simply watched. Friends kept asking why I looked so tired. I lied and said retirement had been stressful. I couldn't bring myself to admit that my own son had taken everything I'd spent a lifetime earning. Have you ever stayed silent because you knew the truth would come out on its own? I honestly wondered if I was making the biggest mistake of my life. Then something strange happened. My financial advisor called and asked why no one had contacted him before making such massive withdrawals. I explained what Tyler had done. There was a long silence before he quietly asked one question. "David, did Tyler know that account legally belongs to the family trust and not directly to you?" I froze. The trust. I had almost forgotten. Years earlier, after my wife became sick, our attorney convinced us to place my retirement assets into a protected trust with strict rules about distributions. Tyler had helped me log into the account, but I had never explained the legal structure because I assumed he'd never touch it. My advisor sighed. If he withdrew those funds without authorization, this isn't just a family problem anymore. Before I could even process what he meant, another phone call came from my attorney. He had already received notice that several large transactions connected to the trust had triggered mandatory reporting. Then he said something that made my heart race. "David, don't contact Tyler again. Let this play out." I hung up, looked out my kitchen window, and realized my son was celebrating money that legally had never been his to spend. What arrived at his front door just days later would change his life forever. For the next few days, I stayed exactly where my attorney told me to stay, out of it. Every instinct as a father wanted to call Tyler and warn him. But every memory of him smiling while he admitted taking my retirement money reminded me why I couldn't. Then my phone rang. It was Tyler. He wasn't confident anymore. His voice was shaking. "Dad, did you know something about that account?" I asked him what happened. He hesitated before admitting a certified letter from the IRS had arrived that morning. At first, he thought it was just another tax notice. But after reading the first page, panic hit him. The withdrawals had been reported, and because the money came from a protected retirement trust, the transactions raised serious questions about taxes, authorization, and ownership. He suddenly realized the account wasn't legally his to access just because he knew my password. For the first time since this nightmare began, he sounded like a scared little boy instead of a man who thought he could do whatever he wanted. He begged me to fix it. "Dad, please. Just tell them it was a gift." I closed my eyes. A gift? He hadn't asked. He hadn't thanked me. He hadn't even apologized. He simply expected me to rescue him the same way I had rescued him his entire life. I quietly answered, "Tyler, if it had been a gift, I would have been the one offering it." The line went silent. A few days later, my attorney and financial advisor met with me. They explained that the trust documents were crystal clear. Tyler had never been an owner, trustee, or authorized signer. The withdrawals created legal and tax problems that only a full investigation could untangle. The sooner the money was returned, the better his chances of limiting the damage. That afternoon, Tyler showed up at my front door. He wasn't driving the new SUV. He had already put it up for sale. His expensive watch was gone. His confidence was gone too. When I opened the door, I barely recognized the man standing there. Then he looked me straight in the eyes and whispered the words I'd been waiting months to hear. "Dad, I was wrong." But I still didn't know whether he was sorry for betraying me, or simply terrified of what was coming next. I looked at Tyler for a long time before I said a single word. His eyes were red, his shoulders were slumped, and for the first time in years, he wasn't acting like he had all the answers. "I was wrong, Dad," he repeated. "I thought if it stayed in the family, it wasn't really stealing. I convinced myself you'd understand later." I stepped aside and let him in. We sat at the same kitchen table where I had taught him how to ride a bike, helped him with homework, and celebrated every birthday. Now we were sitting there because he had broken the one thing I thought could never be replaced, my trust. He admitted everything. He had used the money for the down payment on a bigger house, paid off credit cards, bought the SUV, invested in a friend's business, and taken his family on an expensive vacation. Every decision was based on one lie he kept telling himself, that one day he'd make even more money and quietly put it all back before I noticed. But life doesn't work that way. His investment failed within weeks. The business collapsed. The vacation was over. The bills were still there. And now the certified IRS letter had turned his bad decision into a legal nightmare. My attorney negotiated with the trustees, the financial institution, and the tax authorities. Tyler sold the SUV, the luxury furniture, his boat, and even refinanced his new house to return as much of the money as possible. It took months of paperwork, penalties, and repayment plans before the situation was finally resolved. The financial damage was painful, but the emotional damage was far worse. One evening, Tyler handed me a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He didn't make excuses. He simply thanked me for teaching him that accountability hurts far less than living a lifetime built on dishonesty. I couldn't pretend everything was the same. It wasn't. Trust, once broken, doesn't magically come back. It returns one honest choice at a time. Over the next 2 years, Tyler kept every promise he made. He visited without asking for money. He paid every repayment installment on time. He became the kind of father to his own children that I had always hoped he would become. Little by little, I stopped seeing the man who stole from me and started seeing the son who finally understood what integrity costs. People often ask if I regret not covering for him. My answer is always the same. If I had saved him from the consequences, I would have guaranteed he'd make the same mistake again. Sometimes the greatest act of love isn't protecting someone from the truth. It's allowing the truth to change them. So now I want to ask you, if your own child betrayed your trust like this, would you have protected them? Or let them face the consequences? Share your thoughts in the comments because I'd genuinely like to know how you would have handled it. If this story meant something to you, please share it with someone who believes family should be built on honesty, not entitlement. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Family Betrayal for more emotional stories that remind us one powerful lesson. Money can be earned again. Trust must be earned back.